Roll call, please, Judy.
Gary Bailey.
Here.
John Dooley.
Here.
Deborah Potter.
Here.
Kevin Whipple.
Here.
Bill Arnsis.
Present. Approval of the agenda. This is the revised agenda from what I sent out originally. It's got a few other items down in the new business. Is there any additions or changes that anybody think need to be made?
I move we accept the agenda, the new one as amended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes? If so, any
Make a motion.
additions or corrections? If not,
I make a motion we approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
John, financial report, please.
Financial report for the Greensburg Municipal Airport. We have the three accounts. In airport improvement account, the current balance, $12,664.18. In our rotary fuel account, $57,961.30. In airport operations account, $394,602.59. Total for all three accounts combined, $465,228.07.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Shaffer, would you like to report for Zack Weber, please, on the construction update?
Sure. Well, not much different than last month. They did push a little dirt around this last month, but not a ton of progress. So unfortunately, it's the same report. We were hoping that maybe they would make a little more progress and get a little further along this fall, but unfortunately, it's the same basic report as we had last month. They are wintering the project. Right now, we do owe them some weather days, but we're not expected to actually put those onto the end of the contract until the end, which will be next spring. So they'll be wintering the project. So now they're still out there. They need to seed, put a temporary seed and mulch on there. They'll be using winter wheat in most of the areas that will be disturbed again. There are some areas that are supposed to receive permanent seed. It may be a little too late in the year for that permanent seed to germinate. If that's the case, then they'll have to establish it with winter wheat. That's part of the erosion control permitting process that we had to go through. So that's what we're doing now, is trying to make sure that they get all the erosion control measures in place and the temporary seed on for winter.
Now, they're required to come and look at it once a week, and anytime there's a half inch of rain, they're required to come and look for erosion or whatever.
Correct. They need to maintain all the erosion control measures throughout the entire winter. The documents say they need to come regardless of weather event at least once a week. If there are weather events, then they need to come out and inspect them immediately following the event.
Do we expect soil and water, U.S. Soil and Water to come by and every so often?
I would suspect so. They have come by the site randomly through the summer, it might be tough for them to access depending on when they want to access it and so forth. So if they want to have access to the site and somebody locally hears that they do, just let us know and we'll have Zack come out and make sure they can get anywhere they want to go on the project site.
Now, will Butterfirm and Seifert have someone come every so often?
Yeah, I mean, Zack will be monitoring the contractor's progress. We'll have to see. We're not sure on staffing for the spring yet on whether it's going to be Zack coming back or not. But yeah, we'll keep Zack engaged for the winter, and if there's any erosion control issues, Zack will be the one who'll run point with HIS to get them taken care of. So, and I assume you all have his number.
I do. quite often.
Thank you.
Going to new business, it's your turn again.
Okay. Yeah, new business, we do need to, we've got some payment on here for HIS and some federal reimbursement and then a pre-application. So you'll notice the progress estimate for HIS this month is substantially smaller than the previous months based on the, the amount of work that they had actually gotten accomplished this month. So the first one's a motion to approve contractors' pay progress estimate number 8 for HIS constructors in the amount of $67,934.41.
Make a motion to reapprove that amount, that AIP 16 partial pay 10.
That's a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved.
Okay, and then the second motion is the exact same amount as the progress estimate. We do not have any invoices this month that we're submitting. Zack was actually saving some of the budget since it's dragging on into the spring. We're going to run pretty tight on our available days. So if Zack got wind that they weren't going to work, or they were, weathered out for that day, then he was finding something else to do so we don't drain the project budget down. So on that, so this is the FAA pay request. A motion to approve AIP number 16, partial pay request number 10 for $67,934.41. And that again is 100% federal fund for this grant.
Make motion to approve the AIP 16, partial pay request number 10 for $67,934.41. Second.
Motion seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next motion is the FAA fiscal year 2022 grant pre-application. And so this is required to be submitted by December 1st. And it is basically a budgeting tool that the FAA uses on what your grant ask is. So if you'll recall, we did get good news last month that we got some supplemental funds. So the amount of those supplemental funds was $3,085,853. We did request an additional on that to fund the entire paving and lighting phases. That's being considered right now by the FAA. That's why we haven't seen the grant offer for that $3 million and change just yet, because they are running it through the processes to see if we can get the full amount. So in the event we do not get the full amount, then it would be our intention to apply for the balance plus a little bit extra. So the balance is $2,507,174. You'll notice this pre-application is for $2,846,724.52. And so what we've done is we've taken the balance and we've added 15% on there. And the reason is, as a contingency, if we don't need it, we won't use it. But we're asking for it, and because the way the project was bid, it was bid to be done at one time on paving and lighting. If we ask the contractor to break it into 2 phases, then they have to come to the site, mobilize there, and then take their stuff off at the end of that phase, and then bring their stuff back at the next phase and so forth. So it adds quite a bit of administration, mobilization, start up, start down. It's probably not an additional 15%, but at this point in time, this is not the actual grant. This is just for budgeting. So we're trying to put that number, make a conservative number to make sure we're covered. So that's what that third action item is. It is to submit a pre-application to capture the balance of paving and lighting construction in the event the supplemental funds aren't increased. And so that's a motion to approve the fiscal year 2022 FAA grant pre-application in the amount of $2,846,724.52.
Kind of like getting pre-approved for a credit card, huh?
Right, well, hopefully we get the supplemental amount boosted up, and then we'll convert that over into land reimbursements. You'll recall, we're putting the land reimbursements after all of the construction. So we'll have that dollar amount in there as a budgetary placeholder, and if we end up being made whole on construction, we'll roll into a land, assuming we have final amounts that we can actually submit for reimbursement on. We know we have one final amount on an easement, but the others are all still pending, as you know.
What are your feelings as far as us getting that supplemental amount?
You know, that's an awful big ask over the original bill, so honestly, I don't have a warm and fuzzy that we'll get that. But on this, without going into great detail, cash flow used to be my biggest concern on this project. Today, it's actual contract time. And the reason I say that is because HIS having the winter, we owe them in the neighborhood of 40 days of weather. If they come back out and they start April 1st, which is when we'll start the liquidated damage clock again, that really puts them based on the remaining contract time they have. And then if we have any punch list cleanup items, which undoubtedly we will, Dave O'Mara, the paving and lighting contractor, is not getting the project until late July or early August. The $3 million that we have, the way things have to be built, we won't be able to build it fast enough to spend that $3 million before we would get the $2.8 million in October, by October 1st. So basically the fiscal year is going to end September, and normally those discretionary grants are rolling out early to mid-September. So we'll have the second slug of money. You know, it's not a guarantee, but I can't imagine after the first grant, the supplemental, not getting the balance to finish and open the runway. So if we got that money, $2.8 million in September, we won't even be through the initial $3 million from the supplemental at that point in time. So therefore, cash flow is not the issue now. It's trying to get the contractors done. That's the issue. I'm not saying it's going to be impossible to open the runway in 2022, but Dave O'Mara's contract time, if they start on August 1st, is beyond the end of the year. If they run into any weather, then it really shoots it down. If they hit ideal conditions and you know they can move it through, we may get lucky and open it in 22. But today, realistically, I think we're looking at the spring of 23 is when the runway will be open for business. So, from the money standpoint, you know, and we talked a lot trying to come up with a solution to save time. And one of those ideas was, if it was going to be a win-win for the airport and both contractors, was to transition the balance of the work from the grading and drainage phase with HIS and transfer that in with a spring start to the paving and lighting contractor, Dave O'Mara, in the spring. And what that would have done is it would have saved us roughly 2.5, 3 months of construction time by not having the overlap in the work. You can't really have two contractors out there at the same time, because if something goes wrong, you don't really, you know, contractually it becomes very messy. So you have to let one finish and let the other start. So we pursued that. Unfortunately, it was going to add quite a bit of money to the process. It was saving time, which I thought was great because then it would really give us a better chance of having the runway open in 22. But unfortunately, the way it was going to break out for O'Mara to take that additional work on was going to add a substantial amount of cost to the project that we couldn't recommend to the community. It's just not a wise choice. So that's where we're at. We're going to keep things the way they were bid.
Could you open the runway VFR only? And then at a later date, months, whatever it be, do the lighting while the runway is open VFR?
Well, Bill, you could if you have asphalt down.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, so it'll be really interesting. We haven't awarded anything on paving and lighting yet. We've went through 2 different scenarios with Dave O'Mara and the FAA, trying to come up with how we break it out into the 2 projects. And so there's 2 things of concern. One is we need to take the items that are highly impacted by inflation and put them in the initial contract. And that helps us avoid cost increases by delaying on the second notice of award. The other thing we need to do is make sure that we have a usable unit of work. So when the FAA gives you money, they need to be able to identify what they bought and paid for and see that it's a end product that is tangible. It's for basically transparency type reasons why, this money was paid, and this is what we got. And so when we start breaking it up, we have to be very careful on how we break it up so that we're not in the middle of something that's incomplete, but yet we've paid. So the asphalt is very tricky on that because it is temperature sensitive. So you'd like to put it into early as you can in the year, but the way the price tag on the asphalt exceeds the $3 million that we even have. It's the more expensive of all of the pieces and parts of the project. So, and the thing that's impacted by inflation the most are the electrical components, and they have the longest lead time. So if you order the electrical components, it can take 18 to 22 weeks for the electrical components to be manufactured and delivered to site. So we've got a couple different scenarios, but the scenario we're leaning towards right now is to do basically the electrical. We would hopefully award tree trimming in the approach areas this winter when the grant comes in. That could be done while HIS is working because it doesn't overlap the same construction area. So it's 2 separate areas. So we can allow the tree trimmers to go ahead and start their tree trimming process. And that needs to be done by April 1st because of the Indiana brown bat. HIS is likely not even to be back on site by April 1st. So assuming we can get an FAA grant here with about 60 days for them to do their work, we want to do that. The electrical, and it fits nicely financially as a usable unit of work. We get money, the trees are trimmed, it's easy to show the FAA that happened. The electrical, we've considered buying the electrical and holding it. Ideally, you want to install the electrical after the paving's done. But we've looked at basically a scenario where we can finish grade, buy the electrical, install all the edge drains, because all the grade and drain has been done except for the edge drains next to the pavement. We didn't want to put those in because that gets damaged easy by heavy equipment. So where we're at is we buy electrical, put in the edge drains, put in half of the stone base, and then put the electrical in. So then in October, when we get the rest of the money, the account's activated, all we got to do then is pave it and paint it. The electrical will be installed, which is a long lead time. It takes a lot longer than the asphalt. if we get great weather in October, but we saw what this October was like. If we get great October weather next year and they are in a position just to pave it and paint it, then we'll be really setting pretty good. So we've kind of come up with that versus the other scenario is we're gonna pay for all of the stone and the asphalt base up to surface. Then they would only have to do the surface, but at that point, they'd still have to do all of the electrical and all of the tree trimming. And the electrical takes a lot longer to install than the actual asphalt. So those are the two different scenarios we kind of ran.
Plus the electrical could go up because it's more inflationary.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Kevin, that's a good point. If we wait until October to sign the notice of award for the electrical, there's a high probability that we see the cost increase go up.
During this period of time, at what time will we have to have the airport closed?
So we are not gonna close the airport until we build the little connector taxiway. And so they'll grade that all the way out. And basically so your safety area on your existing runway is really small. It's only 300 feet wide. So 150 foot from the runway, they'll work all the way up to that line. And then once they get it to the point where we've got the bulk of the runway paved, they can pave that little 150 foot by 75 foot wide connector. They can do that in a weekend. That's a very small
Will they
connection.
run the electric by boring under the runway? Or were they originally planning on, when it was closed, taking the electric across it?
No, I think we have a bore under the runway because we are planning on removing the runway to the north, but to the south, we're gonna leave the runway in for overflow parking and things like that.
Okay.
Particularly if, that's cost savings to the project, leave the pavement in there. But also, with the 5,405 foot runway, you'll be able to get a decent sized aircraft in on that may have problems maneuvering on the apron. And so if that's the case, they can taxi out to the old runway, shut down out there, and you can shuttle them back and forth rather than getting them stuck up in the terminal area. So we still need that motion on the pre-application, but I wanted to give you a little bit of background on all the moving parts on that pre-application. Hopefully we don't use it, but we do need to submit it by December 1st just to make sure in case we need it.
I'll make a motion that we approve the fiscal year 2022 FAA grant pre-application, the amount listed there, $2,846,724.52.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved. Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Do you have anything else you want to comment on?
Thank you all for this year. If we cancel December, I'll see you in 2022. Happy holidays.
All right, next, I need a for Mr. Tribbett, we need a motion to start the appraisal for the aviation easement on Steve Lowe. He got .64 acres, I think it is, and I think it's 1 or 2 trees. I'm not sure. I'd have to go look. But
I make a motion, we go ahead and give Don Tribbett approval to start the appraisal on the Lowe property.
I second it.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'll notify him. Next, Mr. Tribbett would like a motion to make an offer to Fred Sterchi for his properties.
Yeah, we had a lot of back and forth discussions about this amount with emails and some personal discussions with Mr. Tribbett, and he had some good reasoning to go with the Bill Smith appraisal, the court-appointed appraisal, and we could obviously it's up to the board what we wish to offer. There was the lower Meisner appraisal, and he had good legal reasoning to go ahead and go with the Bill Smith appraisal, and it would be we'll have further discussion before we get a second. I'll make a motion, we go with the Bill Smith appraisal, 259 plus.
So
$159,740. That
Yes.
I second.
You made a motion?
I made a motion,
You
yes.
second? Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. I will tell you that having attended Mr. Sterchi's deposition, he wants more. I can tell you that. Which I can understand. Okay, third one, on the Robbins property. Mr. Tribbett would like a motion on that one, and he has the court-appointed appraisers, $27,940.
That was his recommendation to go with that. There was another appraisal also. He recommended to go with that one, $27,940. I'll make a motion that we make an offer in that amount.
Question? Yes.
For the same reason he offered or advised us to go with the higher amount on the Sterchi property, are we gonna run into those same fees by offering a lower amount on the Robbins property? And that's not what we end up with.
He had reasoning on that too, and some of it was anticipation who would take it to jury and who would not. But he had good reason. I know the other amount was considerably more, like a lot more. It was in the 40s.
49,355, yeah.
Yeah, and he felt this would be a more appropriate. The court-appointed appraisal here of $27,940. He thought that was more appropriate for the property.
I
And I understand what you're saying there, but he had lengthy reasonings and emails regarding that too, because we questioned him about that also. That was his recommendation to go with. You're correct though. He in both cases he advised the court-appointed appraisal. At one point it was the higher amount, at one point the lower amount. He had legal reasons to justify his recommendations.
Do I have a second?
I second we approve the $27,940 appraisal on the Robbins property.
To make an offer, you mean?
Right. Yeah. Any further discussion? Do I need a roll call on this one? Or is everybody in favor? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pass. Mr. Scheidler.
Okay, well, being it's getting colder, activity's slowing down a little bit at the airport, but we're still selling fuel and so on. Hangars are all full, and we still have a waiting list. And in anticipation it might snow, I got the tractor all ready for snow removal, got the equipment mounted and so on. Maybe that'll scare it away, but it's because we're prepared. So, but other than that, I really don't have anything unless somebody got a question. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Approval of payments. I've got a little note underneath this. We've got two other bills on here that were not on the docket. And one of them was for $120 for Frontier, and the other one was for Premier Ag for $85.99. But my note underneath, I want to include this so everybody's aware. We had a late payment from Fuel of $77, whatever, we're going to pay it. But we want to be certain in the future with the new times for our meetings that if any bills come in, like say we meet on the 6th and a bill comes in on the 10th and it's due in 15 days, that we have a way of getting it paid so we don't have late payment. And I put on here, and I don't know if this is agreeable or not with the city clerk treasurer's office, but if someone of the officer of the board can approve it, or with fuel, for example, we just automatically approve it so we don't get a late fee. Do you have any idea, Amy, do you have any preferences?
I don't necessarily have a preference. I think that's something that you need to decide amongst yourself. If there's, I don't know if there's a motion that needs to be made that says if it's for Av Fuel, we pay it when we get it, and it's just kind of a standing. That's up to you, but I agree with you. I don't want that to hurt the payment timing.
Right. Well, I didn't, do you have any suggestions, Mr. Mayor, of ways that we can be sure without having,
I believe that what Amy's saying is correct. If you would like to give approval to pay any claims that would incur a late fee before your next meeting, I believe you can do that. With the Board of Works, we approve the claims, but some of those bills have already been paid.
we do that on some, I know that.
Right, and I think you could just give her approval to do that. Obviously, you would still have the claims. If there was an issue or an item that you were concerned about or had a question about, you could always reach out to her before the meeting or during the meeting if she's here. But it's one of those things where by moving everything to the beginning of the month, we're kind of hopeful that that helps with some of that, because a lot of things come in at the end of the month. The odd piece would be is if something came in on the 31st and your meeting is on Thursday the 1st, then that may be a bit of an issue, but we're trying to work through that. And Amy's done a fantastic job of trying to expedite all of these processes. But I do believe you can give her blanket approval to pay your bills in order to avoid late fees.
And obviously, I would keep you in the loop. I would send you an email, and then you can share that with the board as you feel necessary, that we are paying this bill, it is this much, it was due, or it is going to be due at this time, which is why we felt like we needed to go ahead and move forward with the payment.
State Board of Accounts does not like late fees.
I know. The clerk treasurer's office doesn't like them either.
What'd you say?
State Board of Accounts do
That's
not
what I was
like
gonna say.
late fees.
Okay, so, let's pay the bills, then go to the second line, is how we want to word things. Has everybody had a chance to look at the docket? And then, like I said, the additional two are Frontier and Premier Ag, and then we took care of Robinson's with that other motion.
At least on the docket, I had Frontier and Premier Ag in those amounts.
For those amounts?
Yeah, because they're on the
Okay.
spreadsheet here.
I guess I thought I looked and didn't see it. You're probably right. If you saw them, John, we saw them.
Yeah, they're on there.
They're on there, okay. Let's, I'll accept a motion to approve the payment of the amount of $328,396.62.
I make a motion to approve the bills as listed.
Something right here. Where are we coming up with 328? I see 324,906.30.
Yeah. You have the two sections. The upper section is our day-to-day expenses, our regular expenses.
But this is on the docket that she sent me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you're adding the two together.
Yeah, so it's two together, add up to
Understand.
120.
I just wanna make sure
And they added up to the penny.
Okay.
They agreed with it, so.
I make a motion, we approve the bills as submitted.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Right, okay. Now, Andy, is there any particular way you'd like a motion made to be sure we,
I'll just make a motion, just like the mayor said, any bill that would incur a late fee or a problem at being late, that we authorize her to go ahead and pay.
okay,
I would second that with an amendment to make sure that though we do get a review of it either after the fact or before it's done. Once
And we will, it'll
we
be on
will
that.
have to approve it as a board.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to have a review process for it, that's all.
Do I have a second? Why not? You need a
I'll second it with that amendment, yes.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any comments from the audience? Yes, sir. I think I know you.
Yeah. Two things. One, I wanted to extend a motion of gratitude to Paul and his whole team. This year, obviously, we've been dealing with a lot on this project, and he's just been a steadfast leader for us and advocate, working with both the state, federal, and all of our local community partners on it. So, Paul, to you and your team, thank you for a year. I know we're not where we need to be, but that's okay. We'll get there, and looking forward to continuing to work with all of you in 2022. I'm assuming if you need to decide whether you want to have a December meeting or not. But if we don't see you in December, then we'll see you then. New meeting time and everything will hopefully help accelerate that a little bit. I was going to also introduce Amy to everyone who hadn't had a chance to meet her, but you've already done that. We're glad to have her working on the other end of the building with us. It's been a good 6 months of high-speed learning for her, and she's excited to continue to work through this process with all of us. So, and then happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Let me ask Amy a question.
Oh, man, okay.
She's never coming back, though.
If we canceled the meeting in December,
I
will
was-
that affect any of the building?
I was wondering that too. I mean, you're still gonna have to approve it, so I don't know if we wanna just have the process of, we email you the claims. I'm assuming you have.
I always come in and sign them anyway.
You do, but I'm assuming you have a process where if you need something approved via email, you can do that. So if we send the claims to you, then there can be a process via email, but I don't know what your procedures are, so I don't know if you have that in any kind of bylaws or anything.
I don't know if
Whether
I've
you
ever
can do
did
that.
anything by email. That I know of.
What we just approved, take care of that though, because she could go ahead and pay all the bills.
I guess it would.
Because
Okay.
we don't want to incur any late fees of anything, so if she go ahead and pay them, and then we could, as long as we get to review them and approve the payments in January, I don't see where that'd be a problem.
Okay,
It won't be that much, about 2 weeks behind at most.
okay.
Okay?
I will still email the claims to you.
If everybody's in favor of no meeting in December, say aye. Guess we're gonna have a meeting.
I don't believe any further discussion. They're about 10 days apart. We can meet or not. I don't really care.
I'm fine with not having it.
Say aye.
Aye.
Okay. No meeting in December. We'll have one in January.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Meeting, anybody else want, Jean, you want to say anything?
Nope, thank you.
Okay,
The meeting will be at 6 p.m.
6 p.m. here.
6 p.m. First, January 6th. So it's the first Thursday of every month at 6 p.m.
Okay. Meeting adjourned. Paul, I need to sign some paper for that.